Hi, my name is Per Hansen, and for this session I'd like to talk about xslt and creating your first navigation. And it'll be around 10 minutes. So, the agenda for this session is we'll create an xslt file associated with a macro, and we'll use a built-in xslt template in Umbraco. We'll then take this xslt and insert it into a HTML template, which is a normal page template. And then finally we will tweak the xslt output and talk a bit more about using xslt templates in Umbraco. So, as a quick introduction to xslt, we'll do a very quick demo of how to create a top navigation. So, to create a top navigation in Umbraco, we first need to know what kind of content we want to modify in our xslt and how we want to write it out. So, let's take a look at our site structure. Let's open up our home page here, like this. So, in here we already have a static top navigation that doesn't do anything, so link 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd like to replace this with a working navigation that actually changes every time I add some content to our website. And for that I need xslt. So let's go back to our content tree again. So we'll open this up. I can see the different parts of our website in here. And in here I can now see that up here my home node is level 1. These pages down here are level 2, and then these down here are level 3. That's the level in the tree. So what I want to do is I want to write out all my level 2 items into the top navigation. But we don't want the level 3, we just want the level 1 items. So, the level 2 items. So we want products, contact us, and news written out. So let's go to our developer section, because we need to create an xslt file. So in here we'll call it top navigation, and we'll choose the template list subpages by level, because by now I know that I want all pages from level 2 in my website. And also I'll tell it to create macro. I'm checking out create macro because by itself an xslt file does nothing. An xslt file only works if it's associated with a macro, or more correctly, if a macro has an xslt file associated and the macro is inserted into a template that will then execute the macro. So this is how everything is connected. A template has a macro inserted into it, and the macro has an xslt file associated with it. So I'll now create this xslt file and at the same time create the macro, like this. So in here I have a variable called level, and if I take a look down here, I'd like to set this to level 1, because what this does is it looks for a node with a certain level, and then it takes all the child nodes of that node. That's what this piece of code does. I'll explain why in a moment. So first we'll just set it to level 1 and save this. And now we can go to settings, into our templates, and into our master template where our static top navigation is right now. And this is this piece of code here. So I'll just delete this and insert a macro instead. So this macro will replace my static HTML. Just click OK, go down, and you can see that instead of the static HTML, we now have a placeholder, Umbraco macro, and it fetches a macro with the alias top navigation. Alright, so that's all it does. We just save this file and go back and try to refresh our page now. And as you can see, just by using the sample template in Umbraco, we're able to actually create a working menu just by clicking and changing one variable. So if we go back and take a closer look at that xslt file in here, I'll try to go through it and explain each part. First of all, we'll ignore this part up here and all the way down to this variable, because this up here doesn't matter at the moment for us. So we'll just move down here and take a look. So in the first line, we're specifying a variable. We're naming it level and giving the value of 1. So, and as it says the comment here, the font starts here, because here we start entering some HTML. We have the start of an unordered list item here, and it ends down here. So we have some HTML here and here. And inside of that HTML, we have a for each loop. So this means that it selects something here, and for each item it finds, it will do the same action over and over again. And in here, in this select statement, is something that's called xpath. And we shouldn't really get very deep into xpath because it's a whole subject by itself. So I'll just very quickly explain what this does. Is that it finds the current page. From that current page, it goes up the hierarchy of the website and finds a node where the label is equal our variable up here. That means that wherever you are on the website, go up the hierarchy of the website until you find something with level 1. When you hit that node, you find all the child nodes of it and write them out here. So for each subnode of the page with level 1, do this. So it writes out list items, inserts a link, generates a nice URL, and then inserts the name of the page inside of the link. And does that for every item it can find. I'll just save this and show you how this actually looks in the HTML. So I'll just view source here, go down, you can see that this is our menu. So this is actually something that's written out by our xslt. As you can see, it's very, very clean HTML. So xslt does nothing that we don't want it to do. So it writes out the HTML we have, and then for each item inside of that, it writes out a list item, a link, produce a nice looking URL here, including the name, and then starts all over again, like this. So if we just very quickly edited our HTML in here, we could, for example, put a class on it, put a class on everything in here. So you could try the menu item, like this, click save, and refresh, and then view the source code. You can see that again, it generates the list item, and then starts all over again. So this is how you create a simple navigation in Umbraco, simple tab navigation. And for most of the other things you would like to create for simple navigation items, you have a whole range of templates you can use. You have for breadcrumbs, you have to generate thumbnails, you can list subpages by date and limit, document type from a changeable source. You can generate sitemaps and a lot of other things in here. So this is a very good starting point for learning xslt. And as you saw, it's very simple examples now in these templates, and by just tweaking it a little bit, you can get the exact result you want. So this was our first very quick look at xslt, and you might be a bit confused now and say, okay, this xslt and xpath looks pretty confusing. This is nothing I can really handle. And it's true, xslt and xpath can be a bit intimidating when you start out. Luckily, there are starter templates built into Umbraco. So using these starter templates, you can get very, very far. There are pretty much templates for everything you need regarding simple navigation, or for just pulling out content from specific places in Umbraco, or content with specific types. So the best advice on getting started with xslt in Umbraco is to, well, take a look at the starter templates, start tweaking the HTML output a bit, and see what happens. That is the best advice. And of course, xslt and XPath are both W3C standards. So there are plenty of books about this subject out there, and plenty of help as well on how to actually move on from the starter templates